The sand trembled beneath Dr. Nia Kareem's boots as the sun bled into Sahara. Radios crackled, then died. Her team had vanished without a trace, tents shredded like paper. Only a single claw mark gouged deep into the granite wall remained, not from any lion or hyena. This was something older, something watching. The air smelled of rust and rain, though the sky was clear. Nia gripped her field journal tighter. Every bone she had ever studied said this creature was extinct, but the footprints were fresh and led straight into the gorge no one dared enter after dusk. The chopper's console still flickered. Nia sat behind the controls, hands shaking, listening to the wind scream through the broken rotor blades. One of the agents had crushed the flight system during his fall. Escape by air was gone. She stepped out, eyes scanning the horizon. A Fravinator was gone again, but not far. She knew now. It wasn't just hiding. It was waiting, watching, picking its moment with surgical precision. A true apex predator, not because of size or strength, but because of restraint. She checked the agent's sat phone. No signal, just coordinates logged into its system. Phase 2 testing site, 3 kilometers west. There was another facility. She ran. Each step pulled her deeper into dunes that shifted with every gust. The sun burned high, but no bird circled. No insects buzzed. Even time seemed afraid of this place. Then she saw it, buried beneath the sand like a forgotten tomb. A steel structure jutted from the earth, scorched, cracked, still humming faintly. She approached the access door. A retinal scanner blinked red. She dragged one of the agent's bodies from the crash site. The scanner accepted the eye. The door opened. She entered the bunker. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered over rows of tanks. Some empty, some shattered. Inside one still-functioning pod floated a juvenile Fravinator, smaller, leaner, more alert than the one she'd seen. Its eye opened as she approached. It didn't thrash or growl. It observed. Like the other, she found a console beside it. Dozens of logs lined the screen. Reports, internal memos, genetic progress charts. One message was marked urgent. Specimen A exceeded adaptive threshold. Neurostimulation no longer effective. Subject has begun avoiding control zones. Displays selective aggression. Phase 2 recommended shutdown. Clearance denied by Director Masika. She opened the attached audio file. A man's voice. Calm, almost reverent. We created a weapon, but we forgot the cost. It remembers. It adapts. We thought we were designing predators. We were creating judges. If you hear this, you are already inside its territory. Understand this. It does not want you dead. It wants you to see what we buried. Nia backed away from the console. Then the alarms triggered. External breach. The creature was here. She turned. The steel wall crumpled. A Fravinator stepped through. Its body was marked with scarring, not from battle, but from restraint. Burned skin across its flank. Collars once fused to bone. Its breath steamed in the chilled lab air. It didn't roar. It stared. She met its gaze and dropped the flare gun. No control, she said aloud. No cage. It took one step closer. Then another. She didn't move. It turned its head toward the juvenile's tank. For a moment, she saw it. Not rage, not instinct, but memory, recognition, kinship. Then the wall behind them exploded. Another one, larger, broader, unscarred, a second Fravinator. Nia fell backward as the two locked eyes. Not allies, rivals. The younger one screamed first, high-pitched, shrill. The scarred one reacted fast, slamming forward. Their bodies collided like stone. Steel cracked. Tanks shattered. She dove behind a column. This wasn't a territory fight. This was dominance. The second one had no scars. No burn marks. No hesitations. It was still following code. Still reacting to pain triggers from the neural system. It lunged again. The scarred one dodged. Faster. Smarter. It didn't fight blindly. It timed every move. Nia scrambled toward the control panel. She found the override sequence for the stem collar. Input the command. The unscarred Fravinator reeled back as its collar lit red. then stopped. It looked at her, then at the panel. It realized the source of pain, and it charged. Nia screamed and hit the floor, but the scarred one struck first, not just intercepting the blow, blocking her, protecting her. The two collided once more, and this time the impact shattered the ceiling. Dust and steel rained down. The juvenile tank burst. Liquid spilled across the floor. Nia ran. As she escaped the bunker, fire erupted behind her. The facility collapsed in on itself. She stopped at the ridge. Looked back. The scarred Afravinator emerged from the dust, limping, wounded, but alive. It stood at the edge of the ruin. Its chest rose slowly. It faced her one last time. Then it turned toward the desert and walked away, not retreating, leaving. In that moment, Nia understood everything. The real experiment wasn't the beast. It was what happened when it broke free. It didn't kill for sport. It didn't destroy out of rage. It chose. That was the threat, not its strength, its will. The desert swallowed the bunker without a sound. By the time Nia reached the remains of the camp, the sun had begun its slow descent behind the dunes. Smoke curled into the sky, soft and gray. There were no more signs of the creature, only silence. She stood alone where the lab once buzzed with voices and data feeds. Broken crates, shattered instruments, and tracks in the sand were all that remained. Her team was gone. The agents were gone. Pongin's secrets lay buried beneath the earth. But the truth had survived, and it had walked away. Nia took a long breath, not out of relief, out of clarity. A Fravinator had been born in a lab, yes, engineered, monitored, wounded, but it had evolved far beyond its design. Somewhere between predator and protector, it had chosen to break the cycle of violence. It didn't destroy her when it had the chance. It had killed only those who posed a threat. She looked down at her blood-stained sleeves, the cracked tablet in her hand, and the shattered transmitter beside her boots. Nothing she sent now would reach the university, but the story was inside her, the drone footage, the voice logs, the printed reports in her satchel. All real, all enough. She began packing what she could salvage. Maps, notes, the last flare, one spare water bottle, and the sample, a fragment of the broken collar, scorched with faint circuitry still visible. The technology alone would raise questions. She checked the compass. Northwest. The nearest outpost was 40 kilometers out. She could make it in 3 days, if she walked fast, if the desert stayed quiet. She turned back for one last look at the gorge. And there, far in the distance, a shape stood still atop a rock formation, just watching, not hunting, witnessing, a Fravinator. She raised her hand slowly. It didn't move. It didn't need to. Then the wind rose, and the creature faded into the heat mirage, like a spirit returning to myth. Nia turned and started walking. Each step took her further from ruins, but closer to something else. Purpose. She had gone to the Sahara searching for history. She found the future. The sun dipped low. Shadows stretched long. Somewhere beyond the ridge, deep in the hidden folds of stone and silence, a Fravinator moved across its chosen domain. No longer subject. No longer a prisoner. A force. And it would never be caged again. End of falling action. Next is a resolution/ending section, 650 words, where we bring emotional and narrative closure, or leave the door open for something more. Shall I continue? You said, resolution. ChatGPT said, here's a resolution section, 650 words, of your story, A Fravinator, where everything concludes, the emotional arc resolves, and the legacy of the creature is set in place. A quiet yet powerful ending that reflects both loss and discovery. 3 weeks later, the university held a memorial, a closed casket ceremony, 6 names engraved into a stone wall. Nia stood in the back, arms crossed, eyes hollow. The university made no mention of Pangen, no mention of the destroyed site, no word about the creature. The official story was heat stroke and equipment failure, a tragic expedition in the unforgiving Sahara. Nia didn't argue. Not yet. She watched professors give speeches. Administrators offer condolences. Journalists snapped pictures of a woman who survived something she would not explain. They thought she was broken. They had no idea what she carried. Later, in her office, Nia opened the storage locker. Inside, her field satchel. Still dusty. Still stained. She pulled out the claw fragment, the collar piece, the memory drive from Tembo's recorder, the drone footage showing a shadow on the ridge. She laid it all on the table. Proof, but not evidence for court or news. Evidence for understanding. The world was not ready for a Fravinator. Not as an animal. Not as a weapon. Not even as an idea. They would dissect it again. Rebuild the lab. Start a new program. Repeat the cycle. She wouldn't let that happen. She burned copies of her findings into 2 encrypted drives. One she hid. One she kept. Then she locked the satchel away. Let them forget. Let the desert cover its scars. She would remember. Not just the danger. The choice. The creature had spared her. Protected her. Not out of instinct, but decision. It had been born into control and emerged with freedom. It had been shaped by force and had chosen restraint. That meant something. That meant everything. Months passed. Rumors spread online. Stories of strange footprints in Mauritania. Satellite images showing patterns that didn't match erosion. A mining crew pulled out of a southern Algerian site after an unexplained accident. No bodies. Just silence. And claw marks. Nia read the stories, always in quiet. She wrote a paper, not about a Fravinator, but about evolutionary intelligence, pattern recognition in extinct theropods, adaptation, memory, choice. It won awards. It asked one question. What if extinction isn't the end, but the beginning of silence? She never published the rest. She didn't need to. Some truths live longer when buried. One day, while hiking near the high cliffs of Morocco for a new dig, she found a single stone, 3-toed print, pressed into the ancient sediment. Fresh, not carved, not planted. She smiled and kept walking. She didn't follow the tracks. She didn't need to. She knew it was out there, watching, choosing, free.